Hello, I'm Diana Cooper and I work with the angels, but it wasn't always like that. My story started when I was 42. I was absolutely at rock bottom. I couldn't see a future. Everything seemed black. I was getting divorced and my children were away at school, and I threw myself into a chair and I said, if there's anything out there, show me, and you've got 1 hour. And this was despite the fact that I had no religious background, no spiritual or psychic understanding. When it came to the nitty-gritty, I just asked the universe, and an angel appeared, a golden being of light about 6 foot tall, and it stepped forward and drew me out of my body, and we flew together, and we had all sorts of experiences. But the most important for me was when we flew over a hall full of people, and I looked down and I said to the angel, am I down there in the audience? And the angel said, no, you're on the platform. You're to be a spiritual teacher. What? Brought me back exactly an hour later, and I had no idea what had happened. This was completely out of my zone. But from that moment, I started to meet people who could introduce me to new energies, talked about chakras and auras and all these things that I found completely fascinating. And I trained as a hypnotherapist and set up in practice. And I was aware of angels around my clients, but I was working with my guides. And 10 years after their first visit, I was lying in the bath and I was just asking for some guidance about the classes I ran. And the angels returned. And this time they said, we want you to tell people about angels. I said, no way whatsoever. Everybody will think I'm crazy. And then the angel said something that seared into my soul. He said, who's doing your work? Is it your ego or your higher self? Oh, well, I said, okay. I got out of the bath and put a towel around myself and sat on the bed, and 3 angels stood in front of me. And they gave me all sorts of information about what was happening, how the angels were all coming in at that time, how everybody had a guardian angel who looked after you and was always with you. And I then wrote New Light on Angels, and that started my journey with the angels. So the angels since then have been a part of my life. I've worked with them and they have unfailingly and unceasingly worked with me and helped me. Now written 27 books, including 5 books for children, and the angels absolutely are threaded throughout them, and the unicorns, of course, because unicorns help children so much. A wave of children started coming in nearly 35 years ago. There are all kinds of different children coming in. Many people have heard of the indigos, the crystals and rainbow children. They're very special. They all come in already enlightened. They come from Orion, which is the planet of wisdom and enlightenment. And coming from there, they carry wisdom in their auras. Now, anyone can receive knowledge, but wisdom is the ability to use that for the highest good. These children have this in their aura. And then there's a wave of IVF children coming in. Now, a normal baby, a normally conceived baby, is conceived in a moment of passion as the sperm and egg meet. But of course, IVF children don't have that emotion when they start. So they have the great capacity to be able to stand back and see things from a different perspective. They bring in a pure innocence. They bring in this knowing that they were so loved and wanted, and this ability to see things from a new perspective so that they can heal their families and they can make changes in their families and ultimately throughout the world on a planetary level as they see things from another way of looking at it. I have an IVF grandchild, and the light radiates from her. She is so pure and beautiful. You can absolutely see the essence of her, and she comes from a very, very high frequency universe. And a lot of those children find life very difficult on Earth, because how can they cope with this when they've been in such rarefied atmospheres? But she very wisely chose parents who were able to keep her grounded and happy and interested and active and give her all the things that she needed. And one day I was walking in the woods and I was thinking about my granddaughter who finds life very difficult, and I said to the angels, well, can you help me? What can I do to help her? And then this idea for a children's book called Tara and Her Magical Talking Kitten just was dropped into my head, and I ran home and I started writing the series that I'm now aiming to get onto a television series to help children. And it's about Tara, a little girl who finds life very, very difficult and challenging. She finds it hard to make friends. She's often rude without meaning to be. She really doesn't understand what life in this plane is about. And then, for her birthday, her granny gives her a little grey kitten. And this kitten can talk to Tara. And the two of them become absolute best friends. And the kitten tells Tara what to do, what to say, how to make things better. So she introduces her to the angels and the fairies and all the elementals and the unicorns and dragons and mermaids. And Tara learns to work with them, and together they make a difference. So these books are all designed to be fun, of course, but to entertain, to enchant, and to empower children. I was visiting my daughter once. No sooner arrived than this child came running down the road, and she was about 7. She knocked on the door saying, I've got to see Isabel's granny, I've got to see Isabel's granny, you're the only person I can tell. Her mother was running after her and saying, I'm sorry to disturb you. But the child came in and told me how her unicorn had come to her, and how it had come to her room in the night and given birth to a baby unicorn, and that was to be her very own unicorn. It was always going to be with her and stay with her. She had to look after it and play with it, but it had to also, she had to respect that it was small and needed to rest, and it had to go away with its mother, but it would always come back to her when she called it. And this opened my eyes. I just found that absolutely fantastic, that this little girl could have that experience and share it, and that I could learn about baby unicorns from her. Many of these children cause great challenges in their families, and it's really important that those parents recognize that they have been given a huge responsibility bringing in one of these very special high frequency children and looking after them. But they are teaching compassion. They're teaching love. They have got such high frequency qualities in their auras that the parents, whether they understand it or not, are absorbing those qualities, and it's helping their own ascension pathway forward. Now these children are also teaching us that our lives are not meant to be all about making money and working, that it's actually about something different. It's about enjoying life. It's about experiencing. It's about going out into nature. Very sad but beautiful story was told me by a neighbour. She had a little girl of 6 who was the apple of their eye. They absolutely adored her. And one day she came home from school and she said, "Mummy, I don't want to do my homework tonight," a 6-year-old with homework. "I want to play in the garden with the birds and the butterflies and smell the flowers." And they said, "Okay." And she went out and she played in the garden amongst nature, and she hugged trees, and they watched her dancing around. And she died in the night. And they knew that they had given her her last wish of being able to be in nature, to experience what Earth is about. These new children, to them it's all new. The sight of a butterfly is just so amazing. The sight of, or the feel and taste of water in a stream is something that they've never experienced before. And so many adults have been back to Earth again and again on the wheel of karma, and they no longer appreciate the sunlight on a leaf, the sound of the birds singing in the dawn chorus, when actually, of course, they're singing in the messages that the angels have for us during the day. They're bringing those cosmic messages to us. We don't understand it anymore, but we don't even appreciate it. These children are teaching us about the wonder of being on Earth. And that's truly an amazing lesson. There's nothing more empowering for a child than to be heard. Even nowadays, people say to their children, "Oh, you imagined that fairy, there's no such thing." Or, "Your special friend, your invisible friend, oh, it's just a figment of your imagination." And these children, they need to have that honoured, because either they are wrong, and which is a very scary place to be if you're a child, or the adult is wrong, and that's very scary for a child too. So listen to your child and learn, and they will open up new worlds for you. And every time you give them that confidence by listening to them, that will strengthen their aura and enable them to go out into the world feeling stronger. All of these things make a difference.